Hey, it's Garrett McCoy. Welcome to Squat Flow. Hello, Move, Breathe creators and babes. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the kettlebell and specifically the squat and the hinge, and why I really like the kettlebell as a great place for you to build your foundational strength. So to start off, we're just going to define what a hinge is. So the difference between a squat and a hinge: when I squat, I'm going to keep my chest vertical. I've still got my strong arches. My knees are pushing out, but how vertical can I keep my squat? My knees can be over my toes slightly, pushing towards that pinky toe. Feet can be externally rotated. So wherever this point is where I can keep my back flat, that's going to be my squat for now. So I'm comfortably just above 90. I can get below usually after I warm up a little bit. So just knowing where your squat is a good place to start. Versus the hinge, you get a little bit more into this gorilla position. Now your shoulders are higher than your hips are higher than your knees. This position looks really strong. If I was going to jump, if I was playing football, I'm in my 3-point stance. If I'm playing defense, I was gonna field a ball. That's why that's important. There's basically 7 main human motions to be able to push, pull, carry, shift, tilt, squat, and the deadlift. I might have mixed a couple together, I might have forgot 1 or 2, but the idea is, if you're a multi-sport athlete and you're doing all these big motions, you need to make sure that you're really strong and have good angles at these fundamental positions. So starting out here, we're just gonna push into the top of your kettlebell. I would recommend probably a 15 or a 20 pound bell to start out. If you were going all in on team kettlebell, I would probably grab a 15, a 20, and a 35. So starting off, I'm just gonna push into the top of the bell, and I'm gonna work on creating this stanky leg right here. Can my big toes stay down? Can I almost knee knock and then come back in? If your bell's a little bit smaller, you might be a little bit deeper, but just doing this is a little bit uncomfortable to start, to be able to gain this hinge motion. So if I'm not hitting on that bell, I'm truly deep into those hips and I look strong, I should be able to stand out here. A lot of the postural stuff comes here. The knees are tracking in, we're coming out. So once again, just push into the top of the bell, push those knees out. Good. From here, let's stand all the way back up and shake it out real quick. So just knowing that hinge, or allowing your body to kind of warm up, is a great place to start. We're going to come back to this hinge again. And the way that we look at addressing the bell is I get my feet about hip width apart, allow the toes to externally rotate a little bit. And when we're doing this drill, I want the bell basically in line with my big toes so that it's in line with my arch. So I'm gonna push into it. Again, shoulders higher than the hips higher than knee. Strong arches, my big toes are down, the knees are pushing out. Now I'm gonna push into that bell. From here, you're gonna pull the bow and arrow. So pull this right elbow nice and high, eyes are gonna follow it. Make sure that left knee is still pushing out. Arches are still strong. Then switch sides. Eyes follow that movement. You're gonna do 5 of these on each side. And the same idea as that pressure gauge. Can I start easy? And then can I get a little bit closer to 100% on each one? And use that breath to help you in the exhale. And again, at first, we're just building up endurance in our lower body to be able to hold this hinge. Push back into it, big chest, toes down, strong arches, knees out. It doesn't burn, you're getting stronger. Reach your arms out in front of you and stand up. Reach back out in front of you, waist height. And that's that hip drive we're looking for. We're just setting, we're warming up those motor skills to help you do that. So that is the base hinge. When it comes to talking about the squat, we are now going to grab the bull by the horns and use the weight of the bell, keep those elbows in to sink us into this prying squat position. So this prying squat position really changed my hip mobility. I was so tight from all the things that I did, and I did not stretch or do anything to take care of myself. I was like this, that I had no chance. The weight of the bell and chasing movements, not muscles, really helped me out. And notice now that I'm kind of getting under the weight, I'm able to relax and to breathe. Now I really am ass to grass. So once you get a little bit softer through the hips, you shake the tension out of your neck, and you get a little taller with your spine. Breathe. From here, you're gonna push that bell into the ground, extend those legs all the way, come into that forward fold. From here, rock onto your heels, rock onto your toes. Rock onto your heels, rock onto your toes. And if you're not almost falling over, you're probably not trying hard enough. Really exaggerate, really tuck and exaggerate. If you've got tight calves and ankles, this position right here where you rock onto your heels can be really hard. Can you get those legs all the way straight? And drop back into that hinge. When you get into your hinge, can you then bring both arms over your head? Sink those hips lower and lower so it gets into that squat. Stand all the way up. You have 5 of these overhead squats. So notice this depth isn't gonna be quite as low, nor am I gonna be as powerful. But that overhead squat is how I'm assessing you. My little morning squat flow routine is all based out of making sure that I hit the squat, this hinge, add rotations, and it's again about finding that checklist of things that we need to do. All right, so we warmed it up, we showed you what it's about. Let's go through a couple rounds of work. So in this round, we're gonna address the bell by getting our heels in line with it. When you grab the handle, think about pulling that handles apart. And when you pull those handles apart, notice what that does to my back. My back gets nice and flat, my lats become engaged, my shoulders are away from my ears. If I've got my big toes down and my strong arches, now I'm just gonna stand up. I use that exhale on the way down. Think about pushing your butt back first, pushing those knees out, slow on the way down. As you get to the ground, I re-grip. So we're at 4, let's go all the way to 10. Stand tall. I tell people to smile up top too. When you smile up top, you release all of that tension that you might be having in your neck and your face. The other little cue I like is the idea of almost leaning forward a little bit. When you do that, can you wake up your abs and your posterior chain? One more, let's tap her to the ground. Come all the way up. This time on the way down, you're gonna go nice and slow and hover about 1 inch or 2 off the ground. When you get 1 inch or 2 off the ground, think about pulling those handles apart, get that lat engagement, then bring your hands back behind you. Good, again, it's not hard, it's challenging. It's gonna make you stronger. It's gonna make you stronger on your next run, your next bike ride, your next swim. You're not gonna get hurt because your body is in balance. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice work. Set that guy down. Take your time coming up. Whew. So these strength stability sets, we really want to use those big muscles. And now we're going to use some of the small accessory muscles a little bit together. So the next one is our piriformis squat. Hands are going to come to your sides. Right leg is going to cross over across the left. From here, raise your hips as high as you can. Push down on that right knee. Full hip extension, and allow that right hip to drop just slightly. This is another one of those little magical exercises I love because it adds hip mobility, hip stability, and then it's also grooving the motor skill of the hip motion that we want, leading from the hip. This will help protect those knees and activate the glutes. This is your last one. I want you to just hold this one, push down with the big toe, raise that left hip as high as you can, let the right knee fall away, push into the ground with your hands, allow yourself to roll onto your shoulder blades and the crown of your head, and then come down nice and slow. Good, shake out any tension, jellyfish, whatever you gotta do. You're then gonna cross the left leg across the right, set your hands where you need to, and coming up, full hip extension, pushing down on that left knee. Slowly lowering on the way down. And at first, it can be all about, am I doing this right? He's saying push down, drive this. That's okay. This is a checklist. As things slow down for you, you'll begin to understand what I'm talking about more and more. And then you can really focus on your breath, using that again to drive tension, but also to promote the soft body. You're gonna hold this one up, make sure that big toe's down, good roots growing into the ground, right hip is fully extended to the sky, left knee is opening up, hands are pushing into the ground, rolling onto your shoulder blades, the crown of your head, and then softening your body with your breath. Outstanding. From there, you're gonna come all the way back down to the ground. So that was one round of our loaded hinge or a deadlift, and then what I call the piriformis or the number 4 glute bridge. Okay, we're gonna add a little bit of core in here too, modified side plank. So if we start out on both knees, you're gonna bring your right hand to the ground, mindful to get your right shoulder over your right wrist. You're gonna start out with that left leg nice and long and then stack your shoulders. You need to get really tall through that right arm. Eyes are gonna follow that left wrist and then raise that leg as high as you can. I think as if I'm squeezing my left shoulder towards my right ankle or towards my left ankle. Right hand is pushing all the way into the ground. Push your hips forward. Keep this rib cage down. Breathe, 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 breathe. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? We use the strength, we use the big pattern, we added the stability with the small pattern, and then we're improving or adding in core and other planes of motion with that stability. Same idea, left knee is down, left wrist is out, arm comes up, raising that right leg as high as you can. Eyes are following that right wrist as long as you're not staring into the sun like I am. And the idea of squeezing that right shoulder towards that right foot, left arm is lifting. Hips are squeezed forward. This rib cage is down. Be mindful of where you're at. Breathe, breathe, breathe. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice work. The other thing that's cool about these little performance circuits is your heart rate is most likely staying kind of in that zone 2E area. So you're not overly stressing your cardiovascular system, but you're doing a lot of the stuff that will help you improve your endurance over time. We're gonna switch gears into the goblet squat now. So if we're gonna pick up that kettlebell to get it into the goblet squat, what starts well ends well. So address the kettlebell just as if you were with that deadlift. Use your legs to help you stand up. And then you just bring that sucker to your hands. It's almost like a magic trick. You're on the top and you come to the side. The hips do everything. My hands didn't have to do anything. So now we're dropping into the squat. Not quite the prime squat, just above it. Good, nice and slow on the way down. Chest is staying much more vertical. You'll feel more ab engagement, probably a little more quad, but we still want our glutes or our hips to be the main show. And what I really like about this is that front side and the back side have to be friends. It's not always the case with endurance athletes. We're shooting for about 8 to 10, and anytime I give you a rep range, the idea is to choose a weight that you can do at least 8 times with good form and work your way up to doing it 10 times. Once you can do it 10 times, that's your time to advance. Okay, from here, we're just gonna talk a little bit of single leg balance. So with this right leg now, you're gonna stand on that right, and you're gonna pull this left knee as tall as you can up, okay? And I see people a lot of times in this position, they're leaned all the way back into this hip flexion. They can hardly even stand up. If you can't stand on one leg, you probably shouldn't be running, because running is all on one leg. So this is all an isometric about flexion. Push into the ground with your right big toe, create that strong arch, lock out that right glute. Spine is as tall as possible. Pull that knee high. That's gonna be your passive range. And whenever you let go, that's your active range. So I'm thinking about pulling my chest towards my knee because I'm trying to lean my chest forward and pull that knee higher. That's more and more hip flexion. It's more and more stability. So I've got all this tension, now can I breathe behind it? That leg might be shaking. That's all proprioception, your body figuring out how much to lengthen or tighten based off of that round. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Stand tall, push into the ground, into your core, into your body. 5, 4, 3, 2, ow. Isometrics are hard. They're very hard. Okay, again, it all starts with the ground. So I like to lift my toes and then I create the roots, meaning I want them to go down into grip. And when I do that, can I create that strong arch? When I do that, my hip can bump a little bit to the left there. That's okay, that ball and socket joint now lines up with that left big toe. Pull the right knee as tall as you can. Initially, just find your balance. Then once you feel like you got a little bit of steadiness and you're not leaning back, pull that knee as high as you can. Now that you're up there as high as you can you pull that knee in towards your chest and your chest almost leaning forward towards it, and go really fancy and get these arms going. But it's really all about, can that left glute get fully extended, locked out? And can this knee keep coming higher and higher? Can I build up endurance and maximize that length of my hip flexion? It's gonna give me more access to use my booty. And you can see that thing's firing right now. It's probably locked out. If you're struggling with your balance, it's okay. Just keep tapping. One more time, pull that knee high, high as you can. Lean forward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It burns, I know. Okay. From here, you're gonna come onto your back. I forgot which leg was just burning because they're both burning. I'm gonna keep my right knee bent. I'm gonna get that left leg all the way along. It is still a glute bridge, but now this is your flexion extension glute bridge. Use your right hip to bring your hips as high as you can. Bring your left knee into that chest. And it's an opportunity to work now this hip flexion, but with that hip extension. It's exactly what we just did in an isometric, but the idea is, can we make that range as big as we can? Our magic number is about 10 here. And I'm not necessarily married to numbers. To me, it's about time under tension and good form. And I really like kind of that flow formula, meaning, can you get out of your comfort zone? Can you challenge yourself to when you want to stop, and then stare down that feeling and say, I've got 2 more. And that's part of the reason why personal trainers always say, how many more? 2 more. It's not that we can't count. That's really what we're after, is we want you to come to that line and go a little bit more. On this last one, you're gonna hold, really push into the ground with that right foot, flex that left ankle,
Pull that left knee into your chest, push into the ground. Find that soft body behind it. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice work. Couple down regulation breaths. Breathe in through the nose. Sigh it out. Same thing on the left side. We're gonna get that right leg all the way straight. Arms come to the side. Full hip extension on that left side. Full flexion on the right side. Feel that yin yang, that relationship between your hips. Improving this relationship and getting it stronger will improve your mobility. So when we're talking about strength, we're really talking about strengthening movements in these core movements that often get really, really tight or neglected when you're an endurance athlete and you like to go in a straight line for a really long time. It's really easy to develop overuse injuries. And what this style of training is about is A, preventing those injuries, it's B, improving performance, because this is what gait is. This is flexion and extension. You're deliberately and intentionally training it so that you can get stronger at it, more efficient, and take better tracking. That's why mobility plus stability gives you the most ability. Good. Guess how many more we got? You guessed it, we've got 2. And on this last one, you're gonna hold up all the way up. Full extension, push into the ground, pull that right knee in towards your chest. All right, so if you've got the time, if it is really a strength day for your program, go ahead and rewind back and do one more round of the deadlifts or hinges and all of that, all the way back through. If you got a little time, it's time for you to cool down. We're gonna get this right leg out in front, push back through that left knee, bring both hands to your instep. And right here, make sure your foot's facing forward and bring that right knee forward towards your pinky toe. From here, raise that right arm as high as you can. And here, still pushing the right knee forward, pushing back through the left. Eyes following the right wrist. From here, I'm gonna bring this right hand behind my back. Ooh, good night, I am tight. And you can shift that weight a little bit to the right. Try to rotate, rotate, rotate. Good, from there, come out of that rotation. Bring both arms nice and high. Bring the left hand to the right knee. And look back over that right arm. Good, bring both hands to that instep. And go ahead and switch legs. So now that left leg's coming forward, working out alignment. Big toes are facing forward, knee driving towards pinky toes. Arms are long, flattening that back, driving through that hip. It's as if the left knee is going forward and the right knee is back. From here, we'll raise that left arm as high as you can, eyes following your wrist. Mindful of that right arm into the ground and screwing it into the ground, creating that little bit of torque. Opening that shoulder with each exhale. Breathing into these respiratory muscles. Good, and then bring that hand behind your back. Use your leverage, use your angles to really stack your shoulders. Good, and from there, bringing both arms overhead. Truly find that stability. Alrighty, so there's another little strength workout. Again, if you want to go through it and you want to do 2 or 3 rounds, go for it. It all depends on where you're at in your programming. I just want to make sure that we're activating these big lines of movement, that we're adding stability in those prime drivers. If you do just this stuff, it will make a big difference. The other school of thought is this is like zone 2 training for strength training. Can you do these little 15 or 20-minute bouts that are going to activate your core and your stabilization system and get your posture as good as possible? To me, your strength is your posture. Waking up that you can get your lats, abs, your glutes all on the same page, that you can have overhead mobility, thoracic mobility. Got to get those mobile joints mobile
and those stable joints stable. Go get them, babes.